Well, a question. When I say I, where is it? Is it in the head? No, no. Is it in the hand, the heart, the heel? No. If I touch the chest and say I, have I touched the eye, or merely a place where a sound is uttered? When I close my eyes and withdraw attention from this framework of bones and flesh, where am I? Try to pin it down. Now, where am I? Here or here? No. The moment you try to localize I, it slips through your fingers like light trying to take hold of itself. You cannot trap it in a skull any more than you can pour the sea into a thimble. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. That is not poetry. It is principle. We are confident, I say, and willing rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. If I exist as spirit self-expression, then no surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. You can't leave a body you were never in. And until you know that, you will try to heal by moving furniture in a dream. You will say words to a location as if reality had an address. You will push at symptoms with syllables. You will wage a little mental war with yourself, and you will grow tired. Oh, yes, you will grow tired, for it is exhausting to try to make spirit obey your voice, when all the while spirit is the voice. Be not rash with thy mouth, the scripture cautions. Let thy words be few. Why? Because healing begins where personal localization ends, beyond body and beyond verbal push. The I that is God expressing is not improved by your affirmations, nor diminished by your denials. The sun needs not the candle to arise. There is a difference, and it is the crux between mental power and spiritual presence. Mental power is always trying. Spiritual presence is always being. Mental power pushes. Presence rests and reveals. Mental power argues with shadows, says, I declare, I insist, I command, and it hopes that enough insistence will turn 2 times 2 into 5. But you violate 2 times 2 is 4, and you have brought upon yourself the fatigue of opposing principle. It is the same with spirit. For your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. Presence is the law. It is not a thing to be used. Don't ever tamper with a cosmic law. It is a double-edged sword to those who try to wield it for personal ends. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Words is power, techniques is power, personality is power. These are other gods. So let us stop pushing words. Let presence speak. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. When I cease to localize myself as a head full of thoughts, and I consent to be no thing that presence may be all, a great hush comes. It is the Sabbath of the soul. It whispers, be still and know that I am God. Not be noisy and persuade. Not be frantic and fix. Be still and know. In that stillness, we do not send. We do not project. We do not try to make something happen. We simply awaken to what eternally is. I and the Father are one. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that realization, there is no over here to heal something over there, for there is no over here and over there in omnipresence. If you say, but I must do something, I say, yes, withdraw from the myth that you are somewhere inside a body pushing at a universe with phrases. Retreat into that inner altar where there is no wall, no skin, no circumference, and consent. Consent to the presence that already fills all in all. Consent to the love that has never met an opposite. Consent. And let this be your quiet password, not to use it, but to let it use you. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then watch the burden lift, not because you moved a mode of matter or convinced a condition, but because reality, once unopposed by your localization and your push, reveals itself as harmony. I am not in the physical. No, I am the awareness of God expressing without boundary, without border. And in that awareness, the supposed problem begins to dissolve of its own unreality, not by our power, but by presence being what it is. Here is where true healing begins, where I stop being a pusher of words and become a witness to the word that was in the beginning, that is now, and that ever shall be. Do you know that particular tiredness that comes after a morning of declaring truth? The mind is hoarse. The shoulders creep up toward the ears. The breath becomes thin, and yet the peace does not arrive. More statements, less relief, more effort, less light. That is not the fatigue of spirit, it is the fatigue of arguing. Be not rash with thy mouth, and let thy words be few, the scripture counsels. Why? Because speech that tries to move God is a prayer addressed to a God imagined to be absent. And that is weariness. To shout down a hall in which no one is ever left. Affirmations used as levers wear out the soul. They are like turning up the volume when the radio is not plugged into the current. The noise increases. The music does not. You can say, I am strong, I am safe, I am whole, until the lips tire. But if behind the sentence a fear-laden self is trying to force the universe to obey, you have merely tightened the inner string until it is ready to snap. The strain is not in God. The strain is in the hidden will. For your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. If the Father knoweth, what is all this insisting? Who is persuading whom? There is a difference, and it is the hinge on which our practice turns between statements about truth and contact with truth. A statement about truth may be accurate and even beautiful, like a menu well printed, but it does not feed the hungry. Only the meal does that. Only living contact with the presence, that is the bread of life, satisfies. When we lean on words in place of presence, we substitute effort for being. We take a shadow and try to cast it as the actor. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word is not our syllables. The Word is the life that utters itself. When we confuse the two, we get tired, because shadows cannot hold the world together. Some of you have tried to heal with a rapid-fire list of denials and affirmations until midnight and wondered why the clock hands mocked you. I have known it. I have listened as earnest souls recited their pages and then confessed the secret afterward. I am more afraid than before. Yes, of course. Argument inflames the adversary it imagines. It builds a sparring partner out of vapor and then trains for a fight. As you sow, so shall ye reap. If you sow argument, you reap argument. If you sow fear, hidden beneath pious words, you reap depletion. Do you see why misuse of law injures? Not because God is offended, but because the direction of your sowing determines the harvest. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, the Master advised. Simplicity, no pushing, no coercion. The more we try to make an affirmation do what only realization can do, the more we treat a cosmic law as a personal tool, and it is a double-edged sword. You do not use omnipresence. Omnipresence uses you if you will be still enough to be used. What looks like spiritual work often hides an ancient will to power. I will get, I will fix, I will command. But I and my Father are one is not a command. It is a discovered fact. It emerges in the quiet, not in the clamor. Consider this. When you say, I am healed, to whom is it said? If it is said to a body you think you live inside of, you have already localized the I and thereby denied the fact you are seeking to affirm. You cannot affirm your way out of a premise you keep secretly believing. That is the fatigue. Trying to build a house on sand while reciting poems about bedrock. Except the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that build it. Labor in vain, that is the weariness of affirmations as effort. The remedy is not better sentences, longer lists, sharper tones. The remedy is the absence of a user, prayer without a pusher, a resting in which the inner fist unclenches, the jaw softens, the breath returns, and what is true is allowed to be true without our assistance. Then one simple whisper may rise, not as leverage, not as magic, but as consent. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Not my word, thy grace. Not my plan, thy sufficiency. And in that yielding, argument retires and communion approaches. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. When the actor appears, the props are no longer needed, and the stage grows quiet. Let us look squarely at this and accept the sobriety of it. There is a law, and it is not yours or mine to bend. It is impersonal, universal, inexorable. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Not because a deity sits in judgment weighing our phrases, but because life is principle, and principle acts as itself always. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. That is not an ecclesiastical threat. That is the statement of how reality is constituted. One God, one law, one presence. The moment we attempt to set up another mental power, personal will, technique, we have stepped outside the stream, and the stream does not follow us. It flows as itself. Think of mathematics. 2 times 2 is 4. Violate that, and you have not offended a professor. You have collided with principle, and the structure you are building collapses. Your bridge fails. Your account will not balance. Your sums will not prove. It is the same in traffic. You may run a red light and escape the policeman, but you will not escape the law if a truck is coming through the intersection. The injury is inherent in the violation. It is not imposed from without. It is the same in engineering. You can ignore the load-bearing calculations, and for a while, the facade will smile at you. But the day the wind asks its honest question, the truth will answer and the scaffolding will fall. No, there is no plying of principle to private ends without consequence. For principle is not a private servant, so it is with spiritual law. When we take the holy idea of omnipresence and try to hitch it to our wagon, come, drag my desire up this hill. Come, fetch me this person, that position. These comforts, we have turned the sword the wrong way. It will cut, but the edge turns inward. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Use a law to capture, and you will be captured by the very chain you forged. Use it to take, and taking will become your environment. You will live surrounded by the brittle things you grasped, and they will cut your hands. There can be no selfish purpose in a cosmic law. Misuse rebounds inevitably, not as punishment from a person, but as the natural harvest of the sowing you sponsored. Do you see why I plead with you never to attempt to use truth on anyone or anything? Do not attempt to make your neighbor right according to your measure. Do not try to extract from the universe a private good that deprives another. Turn prayer into a crowbar to pry open the vault of things. I have studiously avoided mental and physical contacts, and I never give human advice, because to insert my will between you and your God would be to play deity, and that is idolatry of the subtlest kind. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Love does not coerce, not with hands, not with words, not with thoughts. Love rests in the law that already governs both you and your neighbor and refuses to interfere. Some have written to me, but I used affirmations and I got what I wanted. Yes. And then came the secret payment, the anxiety of keeping it, the dullness that followed the thrill, the loss of appetite for the very presence that alone satisfies. As you sow, so shall ye reap. If you sow taking, you reap the atmosphere of taking. If you sow manipulation, you reap a world that manipulates. If you sow the belief that power is yours to wield, you reap the loneliness of a self cut off from the source. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. Two masters cannot occupy one throne. The holy safety is here. Do not use consent. Do not yield. Let the law be the law, and take your rightful seat as witness, not worker, as instrument, not actor. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. When I refuse to make of truth a tool, and instead bow before it as reality itself, the edge that would have turned upon me becomes a plow that opens the furrow for grace to grow. Then one simple password may be allowed to rise, not to move God, but to still me. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. In that reverent alignment, there is no rebound to fear, no penalty to dread, for nothing is being used. Law is being honored. God is being God. And harmony, which is the nature of the law, reveals itself without my interference. If we will not use the law and we will not push with words, then what is it that heals? Not a sentence, not a method, not a will, however sincere. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. That is not a pious ornament. It is mechanics in the realm of spirit. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Hear it again, and let it register beneath the forehead and beyond the ribs. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. The moment this is realized, not recited, the current is established, and harmony, which is already the nature of being, appears as evidence. There is a moment in this quiet, unclimactic to the senses, but decisive within. I call it the click. It is as if a door unlatches without a hand, as if a lamp comes on and no one touched the switch. Argument ceases of itself. Desire softens until it is not there. The inner posture changes. You are no longer leaning forward to get, but resting back into what already is. Sometimes the breath deepens. Sometimes there is nothing but stillness. Peace, be still, speaks itself, and the waters that had been whipped by our mental wind settle of their own accord. In that instant, the temptation to help is gone, because you know without phrase, without photograph, that I and my Father are one, and therefore I and all spiritual being and idea are one in God. Do you see why no sending is necessary? In omnipresence, there is no distance to traverse. In him we live and move and have our being. If being is the place, if God is the very medium of life, then what appears as restoration is not a power shot across a field. It is revelation at the point of need, that the point itself never left the whole. That is why the master could say, speak the word only, not in thunder, but from realized union, and the servant was healed. The word there is not syllable. It is God uttering himself where our listening is unresisting. The word was with God, and the word was God. When the click comes, the word is doing the speaking, and you are the hearing, and there is no other. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. God is the doer and the beer. Do not fear that this reduces you to nothingness. It exalts you to your rightful function. The branch is not insulted because the vine bears the fruit through it. I am the vine. Ye are the branches. The sap is the life. The fruit is the evidence. When the branch tries to squeeze fruit by itself, it withers. When it abides, it bears much fruit. And it cannot tell you how. It can only witness that the life flowed and fruit appeared. Abide is another word for realized oneness. Abide is the click lived out over minutes and days. In this realized oneness, there is no measuring of conditions, no consulting of appearances, no mental photography of bodies. You will find you cannot even hold a picture. The thought of person and place slides off the mind the way a drop rolls from oiled glass, because the presence that fills all, and all admits of no second. For your Father knoweth what things ye have need of, before ye ask him. And when you know that the Father knoweth, you stop telling and you start consenting. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things is not a tool in that moment. It is a benediction that rises of itself to seal the silence. Healing is not caused by statements, but by contact with truth, by conscious oneness with God realized. I cannot overstate this. You may know all the correct metaphysical sentences and yet be barren of fruit, just as you may recite seed names and never plant. But plant, enter the stillness. Wait desirelessly. Let the inner insistence dissolve until the click comes and you will watch life be life. Sometimes the evidence is immediate. Sometimes it appears as a gentle unwinding of knots you did not know you had tied. Always it leaves peace behind it, because no power was exerted, only presence revealed, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. And when the mind tries to snatch the credit, no. Return to first principle. I and my Father are one. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. I am not the healer. I am not in the physical. I am the listening point at which God hears himself. When that is true in you, even for a breath, the work is already done, though the clock may take a little while to agree. Rest there. Abide there. Let the actor act, the vine flow, the words speak, and you bear witness. Then you will know, not from my saying, but from your seeing, what actually heals. If you ask, then, how shall I pray? I answer, step from argument to communion. Do not send a thought anywhere. Do not fix. Do not command. Do not project. No. There is no there to send to in omnipresence. When ye pray, the Master said, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. And again, use not vain repetitions, for your Father knoweth what things ye have need of. Before ye ask him, why shut the door? To close out the urge to persuade. Why few words? because prayer is not leverage. Prayer is union. In union, there is nothing to move, for in him we live and move and have our being. Enter, then, not to speak much, but to become still. Shut the door on pictures, on persons, on places. Lay aside the map of outcomes. Say within, if anything must be said at all, I seek not things, I seek God. Whisper, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, not as a key to pry open a vault, but as a surrender that lets the vault be seen as already open. Then be quiet. Let the breath fall into its own rhythm. Let the shoulders drop their old duty. Be still and know that I am God. Wait without a plan. Wait without a plea. Wait until the inner contest dies down and listening begins. Listening for what? Not for sentences. For the presence that utters itself without syllable. I will hear what God the Lord will speak, for he will speak peace unto his people. When peace appears, you will know the Lord has spoken, and no debate can add to it. Resist the itch to help God by holding a photograph in the mind or pushing an energy toward a name. I hope you will never try to do it. That is occultism in a suit of Sunday words. It is not prayer. It is interference. Love never coerces. Love bears witness to what already is. If a brother or a sister is brought to your heart, take your seat in silence and refuse every picture. Refuse the temptation to see a body or to label a condition. Refuse to design the outcome. Be absent from the body, present with the Lord. Rest in the fact I and my Father are one, and let the corollary be true without your arranging it. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that oneness, God is God, for your brother as surely as for you, and you are not required to play assistant deity. Sometimes a phrase may rise, but you will feel its different birth. It does not strain, it blesses. It is more like a breeze than a bellows. Peace, be still may sound, and you will know it is not your voice. It is the spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profiteth nothing. Then let it be, and touch nothing. Do not look for a sign. Do not take a pulse. The sign that matters is the hush that remains. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Prayer has done its praying when the will has ceased to push and the presence has begun to be felt. I am not in the physical. No, I am the listening place where God hears himself. There have been hours when a letter lay on my desk unopened because the click had come before the stamp was broken. By the time the page was read, the fear it carried had already lost its breath. I did not project myself. I did not send power. I hope you will never try to do it. The presence went before me, because presence is already everywhere. Before they call, I will answer. And while they are yet speaking, I will hear. Our part is not to hasten the answer, but to be still enough to discover that the answer is the only reality present. So prayer becomes this holy non-doing. Cease contending and begin communing. Lay down the weapons of words and take up the posture of witness. Do not use law. Honor it. Do not wield truth. Adore it. Let the within speak without words. Let the word that was in the beginning speak itself where you are. Then it is no longer your prayer. It is God praying, God, and you consenting. Let this be your password. Not to open a door, but to remember it was never closed. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. I and my Father are one. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, and you will find that prayer without pushing is not fragile at all. It is almighty quiet, and it leaves peace behind it. Now let us be very simple. We will give the mind one quiet place to rest, so that it may stop thinking of a body. Take a chair low enough that your feet rest flat upon the floor, not dangling, firm enough that the back supports you without slumping. Do not cross the legs. Let the hands rest lightly, one within the other, in your lap. Never hook the fingers. Never grip the knees. That is a way of holding on. Keep the elbows free. Do not rest the forearms on the chair arms. There is no occult reason for any of this, only one of comfort, so that nothing in the posture calls you back to the sense of a body. Close the eyes. Not to enter a trance, not to become mysterious, simply to shut the door on the visual world long enough to remember that you are not in the physical. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. Now let the attention unfasten itself from its old hooks. Do not look for the breath. Let the breath look after itself. Do not listen for the heartbeat. Let the heart do what it has done since before you could name it. Imagine, if you will, that this body is like a coat you have set upon a kindly peg. You are not in it. You are not fighting it. You are simply not using it for the next few minutes. Soften around the edges of the thought of me. Where does it end at the skin? No. Let the boundary blur. Let the space in front of you and behind you, above and below, be one unbroken room. And let that room be your sense of I. I am not in the physical. I am the listening place where God hears himself. The kingdom of God is within you, and yet not confined to a within or a without. It fills all in all. Do not speak much. If a sentence must rise to still the early restlessness, let it be only this, whispered and then released. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Say it once as consent, and then be silent. We are not using a word to do a work. We are letting a word remind us that there is no work to be done by us. Be still and know that I am God. Sit in that knowing without arranging anything. No agenda, no timetable. He that believeth shall not make haste. 5 minutes today may feel like a wide meadow. Tomorrow, 2 minutes may be the whole Sabbath. It is not the clock that consecrates the hour. It is the absence of a user. Wade in receptivity, as if you had set down every tool and could no longer even remember what you meant to build. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. If thoughts parade, let them pass like clouds that refuse to stop for you. Do not chase one to see where it goes. Let it go without your company. If a stiffness asks for a small adjustment, make it gently and then forget it again. We are not punishing the body. We are removing it from thought so as to become virtually unaware of having one. In that unawareness, something tender begins. The room within grows wide. The urge to help God dwindles. The mind's hands, which were forever kneading the world, lie open and empty, and in that emptiness, the first hint of peace appears. Do not reach for it. Let it find you. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Wait until the click comes, not as a drama, not as a flare of sensation, but as a tiny certainty that needs no applause. You may not even notice exactly when it arrived. You will only discover that argument is gone, and a quiet rightness has taken its place. There is no technique here beyond the consent to be nothing that God may be, all. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. When the click comes, do nothing, touch nothing. Keep the body removed from thought and let the presence act of itself. It will, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. And when at last you open the eyes, do it as you would open a door into a garden you did not plant. Walk softly, carry nothing out with you but this. Desireless receptivity is the open channel, and in that openness grace flows as naturally as a river finding the sea. Non-interference is not passivity. It is obedience to reality. Once the click has come and the inner argument has ceased, the first temptation that rises is to do something with it, to take hold of spiritual peace as if it were a handle you could turn for another or for yourself in the way you think best. No, that is the old will in a new garment. I have studiously avoided mental and physical contacts. I never give human advice. Why? Because the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works, and any finger I lay upon the scale is a theft from God's free action. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. To make a god of my judgment, my picture, my projection, is to break the first commandment in the name of good intentions. Therefore, set this boundary within yourself. Do not visualize a body. Do not project a thought. Do not trespass in another's field, even in the name of help. Love thy neighbor as thyself does not mean enter their garden at night and rearrange the rows. It means honor the same law that governs you as governing them and refuse to interfere. He shall not strive nor cry. The Christ does not push. The presence does not argue. If a call comes, take your seat in quiet. Remove body from thought. Refuse image and outcome. And let the Father within do all the blessing. If no call comes, be content to walk softly and keep silent. Before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. Omnipresence needs no courier. But what of counsel? They ask. Should I have the operation, take the position, marry, move, invest? I never give human advice, not because I do not care, but because to insert my opinion is to plant a human seed and then ask God to water it. As you sow, so shall ye reap. If I sow my judgment into your soil, I join my harvest to your consequence, and both of us must reap the weather that follows human will. No, let us stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Let us wait until the click reveals the wordless peace, and then allow each one to hear the Father within themselves. My sheep hear my voice. That voice does not need my translation. Non-interference is ethical non-doing, and it is also safety. When you send a thought, you set up a second power. When you project an image, you frame a world you must maintain. That is why so many tire in the helping arts. They have built a theater and must keep the scenery from falling. Refuse the stage. Refuse the props. Abide as witness. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. When I am tempted to help, I say within, live thou my life, fulfill thyself in me. Not my thought, thine utterance. Not my plan, thy order. Then I am released from meddling, and harm is prevented because no personal power has been loosed. Resist not evil, the Master said. Do not take that as indifference. Take it as refusal to energize appearances by wrestling them. Non-resistance is not surrender to error. It is surrender of personal will so that truth may be all. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. And good here is not my bright intention. It is God realized. In that realization, you will sometimes find that what needed to be done has been done before you could spell it. Sometimes nothing outward changes at once, but the atmosphere clears. Condemnation drops away. The tight chest opens. Peace stands where fear had claimed to be. That is the hallmark of non-interference. It leaves peace behind it. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Keep your hands off the levers. Keep your mind out of other minds. Keep your words few and your heart open. When a brother is before you in need, let your very looking be a benediction without content. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. Whisper once if you must, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And then let the word, which is God, do what only God can do. You will discover that the less you do, the more God is revealed as all that is done. And you will be kept from harm, kept from pride, kept from the secret violence of trying to make good happen. For it is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. Live thou my life, fulfill thyself in me. Let the actor act. Let the vine bear. Let the presence go before you, and you will find that refusing to use power is the only power that cannot wound. Some of you will want to know, not for curiosity, but for courage, whether this quiet way bears fruit. Let me tell it as it happens in a life that does not seek a vent. There have been hours when I have sat with a letter unopened, not from negligence, but because the click had come before the paper was torn. When at length it was read, the alarm it carried had already lost its voice. I had felt no surge, no heat, no whisper of an angel's wing, nothing. Only the absence of strain, only the sense that the work, which is God, was already done. Days later, a second envelope would arrive from the same hand. At such and such an hour, it lifted. We would compare the clock. The times matched. But understand me, I did not send. I did not push. I did not even know the name that moment. Presence went before me, because presence is already everywhere. Before they call, I will answer. And while they are yet speaking, I will hear. Once, in a country whose language I could not speak, I stood in a corridor and closed my eyes, not to draw anything down, but to remember to be absent from the body, present with the Lord. There had been turmoil in the room beyond. Nurses quickened. Voices rose. I said nothing, did nothing, touched no hand. I simply refused all pictures and let the click have its way. Within minutes, the air changed. No trumpet, no sign, no drama. Only a felt rightness, a gentle leveling of the inner ground. Later, a head nurse said, I don't know what happened, but a hush came. The patient slept. I knew nothing to tell her but this. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. The vine had borne, the branch had only abided. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. A letter once came from across the sea. I saw you at the foot of the bed. No, I did not go. I hope you will never try to do it. I am not in the physical, and no surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. Where, then, could I go? What appeared to be an appearance was only omnipresence recognized at the point of need, and consciousness, freed of body thought, registered the law being itself. If we trade on that story, if we try to copy its picture, we have already lost the way and made of presence a technique. We do not tell these things to build a museum of wonders. We tell them because some hearts need a cup of water on the road, and this is water. God goes before you. I will go before thee, and make the crooked places straight. More often the fruit is homely and therefore holy. Two partners who had sharpened themselves against each other for months call the next morning to say, we cannot tell why, but we see anew, and we have each let the other go. A widow writes that supply, which had seemed locked away, arrives as an unlooked-for cancellation of a debt she had forgotten she held. A boy, mute with fear before an examination, finds that his breath returns, and with it the knowing that was already his. No sensation marked any of these. No one in my house cheered. Only the atmosphere of peace that had settled during the prayer remained, as dew remains on a field, no eye watched in the night. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Beware, then, of the itch for spectacle. The world will ask for signs. The Master called it an evil and adulterous generation that seeks a sign, and he gave them Jonah's silence in the depths and the turning that follows. Do not ask for lightnings. Ask for nothing. Seek God alone. When the click has come, the sweetest evidence is not a headline, but the quiet after. Presence prefaces action and leaves peace. If peace does not remain, wait again. Do not move. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. And when peace does remain, do not take it up as a tool. Take it as the seal upon a letter God has already sent and delivered. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. If there is testimony here, it is this single sentence living itself out in time, not by might, not by power, not by word count or the fervor of a tone, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Let this be the only story you remember to repeat in your own heart. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Say it once as consent, and then be still. The rest will not be told by you. It'll be told by the fruit that does not brag and the peace that does not fade. Let us come to a deeper correction. If spectacle can distract the eye, personal good can deceive the heart. I do not mean the crude reaching for another's purse. I mean the refined reaching for health as mine, for supply as mine, for victory as mine. It seems so innocent, does it not? A little more health, a little more comfort, a little more success for a just cause. But hear me, when the object is mine, the law turns double-edged. You cannot take a universal without cost and bend it to a private angle. You violate 2 times 2 is 4, and you have not angered arithmetic. You have set the bridge to twisting under your own feet. It is the same with cosmic law. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. To make a god of health, of money, of winning, even embellished with sacred words, is to lean on a reed that will pierce the hand that leans. Why is this so? Because the law is love, and love is never private. Love thy neighbor as thyself, not more, not less, as thyself. When I want nothing you have, and you want nothing I have, there is nothing to bargain, nothing to defend, nothing to fear. Then there is no conflict, only cooperation. That is not poetry. It is mechanics in spirit. In that impersonality, the channels are all open. Supply appears because no one is taking. Health is evident because no one is trying to own life. Success arrives as right activity because no one is building a tower to their own name. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added, not seized, not hoarded, added. Do not be fooled by the gloved hand. The mind will offer spiritualized appetites. I wish to prosper, that I may give. If the wish is still I first, the edge remains. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow a personal self and reap personal pressure to maintain it. Sow in personality, seek God alone, and reap freedom from having to make good happen. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. Do you see that mammon is not only money? It is every outcome we covet for ourselves. No, no. Seek God. Let goods be God's business. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want is not a technique. It is a condition discovered when the sheep stops foraging with its own anxious nose and hears the staff touch the stone. I am not in the physical. I am not a private claimant hustling for a larger slice. I am the listening place where God hears himself. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that oneness, there is no mind to defend and no thine to desire. The air clears. The jaw unclenches. The hands open. Peace begins to govern traffic without sirens. Then, watch what happens in the world that calls itself yours. Bills come due and are met without drama. Opportunities unfold that bless more than one. Strength appears where you had planned a nap, but you did not make a move to get it. It came as dew comes because the night was not spent trampling the field. Remember the warning and the promise in one. What shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Gain God, and you do not lose the world. You receive it back transfigured into means of sharing. Lose God in the chase for goods, and you must guard what you grasp with a vigilance that never sleeps. That is why personal good is a trap. It binds the wrist that reaches. It stains even clean motives with fear of loss. Withdraw the reach. Seek God, not goods. Whisper once, only once, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, and then cease from arranging. Let sufficiency prove itself as harmony realized, not trophy acquired. This is the ethic of sufficiency. When I want nothing you have, and you want nothing I have, there is no possibility of a war. The law of love, which is the only law, operates without friction. Things arrive as byproduct, not prize. Events serve the whole, not the self. Victories cease to be over another and become victories of clarity over confusion. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. In that confession is hidden the end of the trap, because an instrument has no private agenda. It does not take a bow. It transmits the music and is content. Live thou my life. Fulfill thyself in me. Then, and only then, will you find that the goods which once occupied your prayer now follow you like shy lambs, unafraid because you never chased them, and you will not need to keep them. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Let your treasure be God, and your heart will rest. Let us try a little laboratory of the heart, not to prove a point, not to earn a blessing, but to feel the difference in your own breath between human leverage and holy presence. 2 minutes only. The first minute, do it your old way. The second, the way of quiet. Minute 1. Take a phrase you have used when fear pressed. I am strong. I am safe. I am supplied. Now push it. Drive it, as if the word could force the world to agree. Say it inside with insistence. Watch what happens. The breath shortens. The shoulders lift to help the sentence. The jaw sets to hold the line. A bargaining mind wakes up. If I say it 10 times, will the pain go? If I hold this picture, will the check arrive? Listen carefully. The words grow louder, but peace does not. The more you speak, the more a subtle panic asks for another round. This is not sin. It is fatigue. Use not vain repetitions, the Master said, for your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. Vain is not the word itself. Vain is the attempt to make a god of a syllable. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow effort, reap tension, sow a second power, the power of my thought against the world, and reap the task of upholding it. Do you feel it? The body has become a worker in a factory whose machines will not stop. Minute 2, stop. Uncross the legs. Let the hands rest, one within the other. Close the eyes, not to enter a trance, but to leave the picture gallery. Be absent from the body, present with the Lord. Whisper once, only once, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Not to move anything, to consent. Then silence. Touch nothing. Refuse images. Refuse outcome. Wait. He that believeth shall not make haste. Do not reach for a sign. Attend to the simplest evidences. The breath remembers its rhythm without you. The shoulders forget their old post. Something wide replaces something tight. Perhaps the click comes not a trumpet, not a wave, but a tiny rightness that cancels the urge to argue. Peace, be still. Sounds without syllables. And you know it is not your voice. I am not in the physical. I am the listening place where God hears himself. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that remembrance, no lever is left to pull, and yet the room within grows bright with sufficiency. Now take a pen. Do not grade yourself. Bear witness. Write 2 columns if you must, or simply sentences that begin, I noticed. In the first minute, I noticed breath shortening. I noticed bargaining. I noticed the chest pull in. I noticed the mind listing options. I noticed fatigue in the second. I noticed a release without a reason. I noticed a widening. I noticed the will go quiet. I noticed a simple okayness. Perhaps I noticed the click. This is not for pride or shame. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. It is for learning. Direct experience is the honest teacher. It will show you that mental power is contraction, while realized presence is space. Do not weaponize this contrast. Do not go home and condemn your old practice. Never. Not a bit. Simply let today's 2 minutes set a new compass. Tomorrow, try it again in a queue, before a call, at the bedside, between errands. 1 minute of pushing, if you must, long enough to recognize its taste. Then 1 minute of holy non-doing. Say once, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then be still and let the vine bear. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Over days you will discover that the first minute is not needed. The hand will no longer reach for a lever that does not lift. The mind will remember that it is safer as witness than as wielder. You will rest more quickly in the simple identity that asks for nothing and receives all. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. And the proof? Not sensation. Peace that remains. Now let us let this settle into who we are. Not as a moment, but as a manner of being. Identity is the hinge. If I am a private mind in a private body, I must push, I must plan, I must defend. If I am absent from the body, present with the Lord, then the push drops of itself. No command is needed. The need to make something happen withers, because I see there is no someone here to make it. I and my Father are one. Hear it not as poetry, but as fact, as law. I am not in the physical. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. The true I is presence aware of itself, the listening place where God hears himself. When identity stands there, action is no longer mine. It is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. So we give the heart a litany, not to push but to remember. In my oneness with God, I find completeness. In my oneness with God, I find security. In my oneness with God, I find peace. In my oneness with God, I find joy. In my oneness with God, I find fulfillment. In my oneness with God, I find guidance that requires no guesswork. In my oneness with God, I find provision without anxious hands. In my oneness with God, I find strength that is quiet and does not boast. In my oneness with God, I find innocence restored, and I forgive 70 times 7, myself included. In my oneness with God, I find the end of competition, because what would I take from my own self? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Let the litany do its work, as rain does. It does not argue with the field. It rests upon it. We are not using words as levers. We are letting truth call us back to the place where the levers are not. Be still and know that I am God. Say once, only once, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, and then let the silence be the keeper of your consent. When the old reach returns, and reach it will, like a habit that forgot it was no longer needed, answer it with identity, not effort. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Notice the fruit of standing thus. The clock loses its threat. He that believeth shall not make haste. The mind ceases bargaining with pictures. Which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? The body, no longer the workshop of anxious doing, becomes transparent again, and we are virtually unaware of having one. That is safety. That is release. That is the stabilization we seek. Not a high state, not a trance, but the ordinary holiness of not needing to make anything happen. The vine bears, the branch abides. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. Keep the stance simple. Before you speak, be absent from the body, present with the Lord. Before you answer a letter, be absent from the body, present with the Lord. Before you step into the store, the meeting, the sick room, the kitchen sink, be absent from the body, present with the Lord. Identity precedes action, and action takes its nature from identity. If I am a doer, I must do. If I am an instrument, I may rest while the music plays through. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, there is no outside to convince, no problem to conquer, only God revealing God where a problem pretended to be. Let us seal this now, gently, not as spell, but as surrender. In my oneness with God, I find completeness. Nothing lacking, nothing extra. In my oneness with God, I find security. Nothing to fear, nothing to guard. In my oneness with God, I find peace, not as the world giveth. In my oneness with God, I find joy, quiet, deep, untraded. In my oneness with God, I find fulfillment. Life fulfilling itself is what I am. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. I and the Father are one. God is the doer. I rest as witness and instrument. And because identity is settled, the compulsion to make anything happen is over. Amen. Now we turn from litany to living, from the amen to the day. Let it be a soft turning. Do not leap from the altar to the anvil. Walk softly. How? With brief, frequent silences. A minute before the kettle sings. 10 quiet breaths in the parked car. The elevator's rise. The pause before you answer the door. The phone. The email. In each small doorway. Knock within, and it shall be opened unto you. Enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. The closet is not a room. It is the instant you become absent from the body, present with the Lord. No fanfare, no effort. Only that inner turn which says, I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. Make a simple rhythm of it. Morning before the day knows your name. Sit, remove the body from thought. Say once, only once, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Not to start the machinery, but to stop the push. Then hush, noon, when the sun of activity is highest. 2 minutes of not meddling, refusing pictures, refusing results, consenting to presence. Evening, when the world asks for a review. No tally, only gratitude. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. Between these, many little closets open, take them. Pray without ceasing is not a marathon. It is 1,000 small returns. Keep the password holy by using it rightly. Do not hammer with it. Do not count it as if it were coins in a purse. Speak it as consent and then be silent. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then be still and know that I am God. Let the word, which is God, speak for itself. If the click comes, bow inwardly. If it does not, do not make haste. He that believeth shall not make haste. Silence is not delay. It is the atmosphere in which God is already God. We do not coax the sun to rise. We remove the curtain, set this final boundary, and keep it. Do not tamper with law. Do not use it. Align with it. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and thy neighbor as thyself. There can be no selfish purpose in a cosmic law. Attempt to bend it to a private want, and the edge returns upon the hand that bends. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow consent, reap peace. Sow impersonality, reap safety. Keep your hands off the levers. Keep your mind out of other minds. No visualization, no projection. No spiritual trespass in the name of help. He shall not strive nor cry. If counsel is sought, let your counsel be stillness. Let each hear the Father within. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. As you walk, remember, I am not in the physical. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. You cannot leave what you were never in. Therefore, you can be everywhere on time, because presence is before you. I will go before thee and make the crooked places straight. You need not manufacture good. You need only consent to God, being God where you stand. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Let this be the quiet charge. Be still often. Love always. Consent continually. Seek God, not goods. Take the password as your gentle key. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And then hush. Give thanks without listing. Love without measuring. Obey without bargaining. Walk humbly. Walk softly. Walk unhurried. And when the day has spent itself and you close your eyes once more, let one gratitude rise without adornment. I and the Father are one. God did the doing. Peace remained. And so it is.